So hello everyone. Welcome to my webinar about what is specialty coffee, part 2. So today we are going to talk about why specialty coffee standard was created. Last last webinar about specialty coffee, we were comparing. We were talking about commercial coffee grades and specialty coffee grades was the difference. I wonder if you watched this webinar, this video on my YouTube channel. Did you get a chance? If not, you can do it. I highly recommend because these two parts are connected. But this slide is from my previous presentation as well. So it's kind of a definition of a specialty coffee. So specialty coffee contains several aspects. The first thing to mention that specialty coffee is a green coffee grade to differentiate from commercial coffee. So we were talking a lot about this particular aspect, my previous my previous webinar about specialty coffee. We spoke about commercial export grades from Brazil, from Kenya, from Ethiopia, about the definition criteria for each classification system, like if it's a defect count or if it's a density of the bean or if it's a quality of the cup and others super interesting, super useful for you, for like all the people working in coffee industry. But today we're going to touch two other aspects of definition of a specialty coffee. Like specialty coffee is actually a global standard to add a value for coffee consumers, and specialty coffee is a market tool to increase profit for coffee farmers. So these two we're going to discuss today, we're going to discuss now. And of course, if you're going to have any question, you are most welcome to ask. So let's go. So conclusions of the previous webinar. So each coffee production country has its own export classification system, appeared historically. Meanwhile, specialty coffee, it's a like global classification system, which we apply to any production country. This is the main difference. And it's a wrong paradigm that a commercial coffee is bad and specialty coffee is good. They're like two different coffee qualities that serve different purposes and cover different markets. That's it. And we ended up like open question, like should we consider as a specialty coffee high standard commercial grades? And I think we're gonna have an answer when we gonna finish today, when we're gonna talk about today's topics. So this is our specialty coffee standard. We all know it. It's important to mention that beside 80 plus scores on the score sheet, we also need include like the physical defect count. Like the coffee, green coffee, the sample 250 grams shouldn't have more than 5 secondary defects, and this is super important. And another standard for quackers, which is there's pale yellow beans after sample is roasted, which is lack of density, sugars, volatile components, basically everything which can lead to some off flavors in the coffee. So according to like a CA standard, there shouldn't be any quackers in coffee, roasted coffee, but according to the Q standard, which is developed by CQI, which we're going to talk a lot today, coffee can have like up to 3 crackers per 100 grams of roasted coffee. So this is our standard. And why it was developed, and how it was developed, and like what is the purpose of the standards. This is what we're going to discuss. So before we start, let's imagine the coffee industry 30 years ago, right? Like in 1995 or 1990, before the standard was invented. I mean, it's pretty interesting exercise because industry didn't look the way it looks now. The main difference, like imagine the industry without specialty coffee. This is, I know it like maybe sounds crazy, but I mean, we didn't have standards, we didn't have this crazy fermentations, infused coffee, anaerobic natural. Natural coffee usually was lower grade coffee, and higher grade coffee was washed one because the process in itself allowed us to get a higher quality, more transparent in terms of acidity and flavors, and like clean in terms of defects cup. So we didn't have specialty coffee. We had those expert classification that we now know about, right? Like in Brazil, it's like New York to classification based on green coffee defect count, based on screen size, cup quality. In Ethiopia, it's like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. In Kenya is like AA, AB, Peabody, C grades, etc., etc. So we had this green coffee classification system, and we have low grade coffee, like a standard conventional coffee, maybe some premium coffee, which like the higher export grades, and some niche coffee like Kopi Luwak, Jamaica Blue Mountain, or Australia Skyberry, these kinds of coffee that were like super expensive, but not because they taste good, but just because like there's just low volumes of production. That's why and there's like very good marketing involved, but nothing special about the coffee in terms of taste. So that's it. No crazy flavors, no single farm coffee, maybe just single origin coffee, maybe some single region coffee, and that's it. And that time, of course, we already have a definition from Erland Knudsen, who like defines specialty coffee as like a beans of the best flavor, which are produced in a special microclimates. And even here, it's important to notice, to like draw your attention to this thing that specialty coffee is a term for the highest grade of coffee available, typically relating to the entire supply chain, using single origin or single estate coffee. So here is like important thing to pay attention. So specialty coffee, before we had a standards, it's about the coffee which is traceable to some region, traceable to some origin region, to some farm, to some coffee producers. So already that time we knew that, okay, it's not only about the flavor. It's about the flavor, but it's not only about the flavor, but about transparency and traceability of the coffee. Which is, okay, something. Let's go further. So you probably know that we have a different coffee organization. This coffee organization did, and they're doing amazing job to spread the word about the specialty coffee, to develop standards, to teach people about the standards, about the specialty coffee, being like connoisseurs of the whole culture, because it's a culture, coffee culture, of producing, roasting, brewing, drinking coffee, which is like super important. We wouldn't be here if it not this coffee organizations. There are plenty out there, but for today, this is like super important to speak about two of them: Specialty Coffee Association and Coffee Quality Institute. So back there, we actually had two coffee associations, like American Specialty Coffee Association of America and Specialty Coffee Association of Europe. So Association of America was created, if I'm not mistaken, in 1982. In Europe, a bit later, in 1999, after the standard was developed. Actually, the standard was developed somewhere in between. Coffee Quality Institute, it's a kind of sister company or daughter company of Specialty Coffee Association of America. Coffee Quality Institute was founded in 1996. And both of them are nonprofit, and both of them were created to support specialty coffee segment, specialty coffee industry, but they kind of working in different markets. So Specialty Coffee Association, dedicated to develop a specialty coffee culture in consuming countries based on principle of openness, inclusivity, and sharing knowledge. You can visit their website and read more about their missions, their principles, what they do, and it's like super useful website because they also contain a lot of information about standards, articles, how you can become a member, how you can benefit being a member, and Coffee Quality Institutes. It's a bit different organization, also non-profit, but dedicated to improving the quality of coffee and the lives of the people who produce it, and focusing on a producing side more, on a, like countries where coffee is actually growing and producing. So they kind of do one thing, but on different markets, for different people, for different parts of coffee supply chain, which is super important. And so it actually was a Coffee Quality Institute who developed the standard. And that's why we share, as a SCA and CQI, we share one score sheet, we share one like tasting form and protocol and standards, so they're the same. Why this standard was created? So let's imagine the entire supply chain 30 years ago again, right? So it's like the participants are the same, no matter it's like 50 years ago, 30 years ago, or now. We have farmers, we have who is like growing cherries, picking cherries, maybe doing some sorting at this stage. We have wet mills where it's like processing takes place. We have exporters who prepare parchment coffee for exports, export documentation, who are selling coffee to coffee importers, importers selling coffee to coffee roasters who makes roasted beans out of green beans. And I wrote here cafe, but of course it can be coffee shops, cafe, restaurants, hotels, consumers. I don't know, maybe they buy directly from coffee roasters, and of course different retailers. as well. And the last part of our supply chain, coffee consumers, coffee drinkers. So this is how our supply chain looks. But the way it operates now and 30 years ago, it's a bit, it's a different. It was like 30 years ago, it was different. And the first difference that coffee farmers, they didn't used to understand the quality of cherries, of the coffee itself, of the coffee as a product. And unfortunately, it's still happening. Not all the farmers who grow cherries have ever tried the coffee they produce. This is crazy thing that shocked me when I was traveling to such origins like Ethiopia or Kenya, or basically African origins, because people there, they are super poor. So they know how the cherry looks like, but they never saw like green bean or roasted bean. They have never tried the coffee they're produced. So they just like don't understand what it is, like what they should do to improve the quality of a final product. Another thing, that coffee wasn't traceable to the farm in most of the countries, like in 99% cases. So all the coffee usually was blended to the region blends, or even single origin blends. So just like, coffee from Ethiopia, washed coffee from Ethiopia, or with Ethiopia, we have a lot of different regions that we can trace coffee to, like Yirgacheffe or Sidamo, like Empty, and others. And for example, for Central America, it can be like Guatemala, Huehuetenango, Colombia, Huila, or Nariño. So sometimes we could trace to the region, sometimes we couldn't. It could be just Colombia Excelsa or Suprema quality, and that's it. And that's a problem not only for the farmers, that's a problem for consumers, for coffee roasters, for coffee shops, for those who, kind of would like to do something different to kind of differentiate the product, but they just couldn't because there's like no product on the market. And like 30 years ago, it was already a third wave of coffee, if you remember that. And people, they kind of like perceiving coffee as like some of gastronomic product they can enjoy, and they were ready to pay more, but there just wasn't a product on the market. And this standard, specialty coffee standard, allowed to create this new product with additional value for the coffee roasters and coffee shops, cafes, and coffee consumers. They were ready to pay for. So what's the problem? From the left side, farmers didn't know the quality of the product and were struggling to profit from growing coffee. And consumers were ready to pay premium for a better quality, but it wasn't on the market. And CQI, Coffee Quality Institute, invented the standard of the specialty coffee, which allowed improving the quality of the coffee by teaching farmers how to grow, how to harvest properly. So in order to achieve a better product, differentiation coffee, and improving transparency and traceability. So over time, operation allowed us if, for example, we have some micro lot from a farmer, like, I don't know, 10 bags or 2 bags or 5 bags, now, like, you can buy this kind of micro lots of like 2 bags of, or 1 bag of coffee or 5 bags. So now this operation on wet mills or dry mills allows you to process this like small quantities, and it probably allows us, just because farmers started to invest in their farmers. They started to buy equipment to do the processing on the farm, not just being forced to sell their cherries cheap to the cooperatives or wet mills. So now they could profit more money just because they have a facility on their farm to make green bean, like parchment bean out of cherries, which of course allow them to control the quality more and to like have a bigger profit from what they were doing, because of course coffee tasted differently, right? And increasing the value of the product for the consumers, of course, because taste is better, green beans cleaner, and we know where's the coffee from. We know information about like when it was harvested, how it was processed, like what was the controllables, like etc., etc., etc. A lot of things, and actually. I think like few people thinks about it, but it's actually a lot of work, a lot of efforts from like farmer and wet mill and exporters and importers sides to communicate, like to collect this information from the farmer and to deliver this information through the whole the supply chain to the coffee roasters, to the cafes, to the consumers. It's like a lot of effort, because you need to like get a data from the farmer, then you need to write all this information like according to some text structure and put it on their website. So you need somewhere who manage the website, or you need to share with your customers. In this case, it's coffee roasters probably. That's like you need to hire a person who's gonna do this. And it's actually like for us, for like green coffee suppliers, it's like additional costs we should include in like our margin, because it also, you know, takes a lot of efforts and funds from us to do this job, to do this important job. And providing access to the market and strengthening connection. This is actually like super important part of our work, of a job of a Coffee Quality Institute. Because for farmers, besides not being able to profit properly from the producing coffee, another problem, really like hard, really tough problem, is not having people who gonna not having buyers, coffee roasters or importers gonna buy from them, not only today, this year, but next year, 2 years in a row, 5 years in a row, like having buyers and thus having market connections. This is a problem for coffee farmers. If you are in a situation, you don't know whom to sell your coffee to, it's kind of super challenging. It's super risky, and because, you know, coffee cannot be stored at the origin. It's losing its qualities. It's losing its flavor if it's just like stored for a long period of time in the origin or in the producing countries. It doesn't matter. So this is part of the job that was made by CQI by inventing this standard. And another like a huge job they did, they taught and they're teaching a lot of people how to use the standards, like to how to define the standard, how to differentiate this like commercial coffee and specialty coffee, right? And I'm talking about Q graders who kind of, after you become a Q grader, you're qualified, you're authorized to say, okay, this coffee is a specialty coffee and this coffee is not a specialty coffee. But Q graders, they are usually not, they are not tough how to determine commercial grades. It's probably usually just a matter of experience and working with different commercial coffees, origins, and grades. So this is super important to mention that CQI, they do this licensing, like licensing of Q graders. So they teach about what kind of job were done to develop the standard, why they did this, and what is the definition of the standard, how to select how to select defects from the green beans, what the standard for these defects, how you can find them, how they look like, how to count, what's the other characteristics of the quality of the green bean, like smell, color, humidity, and how to use this score sheet, this protocol, and how to determine in coffee different acids, flavors, defects, like all this stuff. They teach people and certify them being a Q, Arabica, and Robusta graders. And this is like super important because if there is a standard, but we don't have qualified people to define it, the system won't work. So it only works now because we have a lot of people who understands the standard, who understands the definition of this quality, of this grade, who knows how this specialty grade is supposed to look like, to taste like, right? And besides this licensing, they, as I said, which is super important, provide a market connection. How they do this? So besides having the certification for people, they also have a certification for coffee. And during the course, during the Q cupping or during Q certification, they're talking a lot, and this is like actually now basic knowledge to know. But they also have the service for farmers. If farmer, for example, want to certify their coffee they produce as a Q quality, they can provide some coffee and ask them to do this evaluation, and this sample divided into like 350 gram samples and sent to Q graders worldwide. Q graders, they don't have any markings. They don't know what's the origin, what's the processing, but they do all the protocol, select defects, quackers, and taste the coffee according to the protocol and everything. And then they do report if the coffee like is fit in the standard Q or specialty. I already told you about the difference. Basically, it's only in quackers, a number of quackers. And if coffee is fit into the standard and we have a score number, we have defect count, this information is placed on their website on a database of the coffee that is certified as a Q coffee. And coffee in roasters or I don't know, importers who kind of interested to buy this high quality coffee, they can go there and see this and connect with the farmer and buy this coffee from them. If coffee didn't fit in the standard, farmer get a report, a really thorough report where they can get understanding why they couldn't achieve this quality and what can be improved in the farm in order to improve the quality of the coffee. So this is kind of a tool for the farmers and for the whole industry to get a new quality of the coffee, specialty quality, new grade of the coffee, like a higher in terms of the like raw material, the green bean in terms of flavors. And in this case, we kind of fight both of these problems when farmers don't understand the quality of their product and struggle to get a higher profit. And from the other side, the consumers who cannot who would like to have a better quality, higher value products, but they couldn't, and now they can. So this was, and this is like the best solution for the coffee industry that time, and now system works pretty well. But the problem is, as I can see, that people, since they're not into like the story behind, they're not really, like a lot of people enter the industry, right? Like, I don't know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, they just don't have this knowledge. They don't understand the roots of the system. So people are confused because when they're starting to buy coffee, everybody says that we're selling specialty coffee. And it's such a common thing now, unfortunately, that commercial grades are sold like a specialty coffee. So like for us, for coffee industry participants, it's like super important. It's like crucial. It's a basic to understand what's actually specialty coffee. And in this case, if you cannot trace the coffee to the region, to the farm, if you don't have a full information about the coffee, if coffee contains more than 5 secondary defects or have more quackers than 3 per 100 grams, even if it has like 80 plus scores, maybe it's not a specialty coffee. So we always should keep in mind kind of all the aspects of definition of a specialty coffee to name our product. We, like as a green bean with both, or roasted coffee produced, or cup coffee produced, if it's actually a specialty coffee. So how, we all know how the score sheet looks like. This is a score sheet for Arabica coffee, but we actually have a score sheet for Robusta as well. And I think it's also should be mentioned here on this webinar that, of course, CQI, since they created a standard for Arabica coffee, like why not create a standard for Robusta, right? Kind of super discriminating to another piece of coffee and not having like high-end standard for this product as well. But we call this product not a specialty Robusta, but a fine Robusta. And we also have a standard. It's pretty much, it has so many common, like shared similar things. So also no more than 5 secondary defects per 350 grams of green coffee sample, quackers, and they have some different kinds of green coffee defects, but most of them are the same as for Arabica. And for criteria, if you kind of compare, just a second, let's look through Arabica one more time. So we have fragrance, flavor, aftertaste, acidity, which is super important for Arabica, no matter like you or not, body balance, like this, not descriptive but discrimination criteria like uniformity, clean cup, sweetness, and overall we have it for Arabica. And for Robusta, it's a bit different because, of course, Robusta has a different content, and it's different flavor, different taste. It doesn't have that much sugars. It doesn't have that much aromatic compounds, but it has more caffeine. It has more chlorogenic acid. That's why Robusta has more bitterness than Arabica, has less sweetness than Arabica, has a different like aromatic profile. So for Robusta, we have this fragrance aroma, same flavor, same aftertaste, same, but it doesn't have acidity as a separate criteria, but it has a ratio between salt, acid, and ratio between bitter, sweet, which is actually in terms of taste, like basic taste makes it even more complex than Arabica. Mouthfeel, balance, and only 2 discrimination criteria like uniform cups, clean cups, no sweetness, and overall. So a bit different score sheets, a bit different approach in making scores, I would say, because we have only 20 scores being added by default if coffee is clean, not 30. So if there's something interesting, something we can appreciate this coffee for, we will probably should score even higher than for Arabica. And this is it. This is how it works. We should give opportunity to farmers who grows Robusta as well, not only for farmers who grows Arabica, because we have such regions like Vietnam, India, Indonesia, Brazil as well, Mexico, which farmers, they grow Robusta. So they also have this tool to understand the quality of the coffee, to invest in the quality of the coffee, and being able to profit more. And from the other side, we have consumers who, well, maybe they just don't like acidity in coffee. They don't like Arabica. Maybe they would appreciate fine Robusta even more than Arabica. They would like it more if the approach we use to have a higher quality was used for this piece as well, which all this said proves that, okay, we have a higher standard, global standard for Arabica coffee and higher global standard for Robusta coffee, which is of course doesn't mean that we still have different export grades for Robusta, which exist in producing countries like Vietnam. They have their own export system. Indonesia, they have their own export system for green coffee. In Uganda, their own. So same thing, like Robusta industry, coffee industry works pretty much the same as Arabica. They also have their own exchange, but it's not in New York, it's London, and it's traded not in cents per pound, but in dollars per metric ton. But the principles are the same, and standards pretty much the same too. So this is why specialty coffee standard was created, to develop a better quality of the coffee to be able to provide a product with a higher value for consumers. But why it also super important to have this job done for created a new standard, like how all these changes did help farmers to increase their profits and improve their livelihoods. Because it's like not a secret that farmers are like that part of supply chain who benefit least from producing coffee, and they're like struggle a lot. And in general, it's like super tough field, like agriculture is like super tough field to work. And they have so many problems to grow this coffee, to produce this coffee. Climate change, it's not a joke. And all this happening, and it's super challenging. And I mean, producing coffee is becoming less and less interesting for coffee farmers over years. So let's talk again about the coffee C market. I know you don't like it much. I have a super detailed and explanatory webinar about the C market, about the coffee contract, how it works, what's hedging on my YouTube channel, so you can watch it. But here I wanted to speak about this in a brief, just to explain you how inventing the standard, creating the standard, help farmers to increase their profits. So in this context, it's super important to mention about C market again. So yeah, this is how the curve looks like. So it's like from the horizontal axis, you can see years. From the vertical axis, you can see cents per pound. US cents per pound. So this is like the sea level price, basic price, based on which we define the price for coffee worldwide, right? This is how it works. Like this tool helps us to determine the price of the coffee. I know everybody is crazy about C markets. Like last half a year, this is like super crazy. It reached out its maximum, like historical maximum for all the years, which is yeah, crazy. But this is a new reality, and I mean, we were talking a lot like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that there is a problems happening. There is a climate change. There is people who live in coffee industry because they like tired being poor. They go to the like new generation of people, new generation of farmers. They don't want to do that anymore. They go to the cities to have a like office job, live their lives and enjoy their lives. And elderly people who is growing coffee at the moment, they like retired. They like not going to do it in the next like 10-20 years apparently. So just the number of coffee farmers is reducing, because many of them, like if you offer them alternative doing other kind of business or even other kind of agriculture, they probably choose it because coffee is super challenging. You really need to do like put a lot of efforts to do a good quality, high quality products. And another thing to mention here, like coffee crop, coffee harvest, you usually collect like one time a year, and or like In some regions, okay, 2 times a year. And that's it. So you kind of can sell something and get profit out of something only once a year. And then you just need to live somehow for this money for the rest of your year. And this is challenging, this is tough. And there's so many other agricultures you can sell, like you can harvest throughout a year, for example, tea. I can have example for you from Kenya. So they produce coffee, yes, but they also produce a lot of tea. And so many farmers, they just like give up producing coffee, but starting producing tea just because it's easier. You just have a bushes of tea and you just cut this leaves and sell them to the factories, and you get a profit. You get a money like the whole year, and you don't have to do much. You don't have to, harvest this red cherries and doing a lot of stuff you're doing to produce coffee. So this is a reality of our industry. So many people like coffee consumers, roasters, coffee shops, importers, they just don't want to think about, but it's still happening, it's still there, and you cannot cancel it just because you don't want it to happen. So the coffee price is based on a C market, as I said. But the problem here is it's volatility, right? So the price fluctuation is the problem for the farmer. Let me explain you here better. Like, for example, as I said, like you harvest coffee once a year, you put a lot of effort to get this harvest. So many challenging things can happen during this period, like flowering or ripening or harvesting, right? Like you can have frosts that destroy your harvest. You can have heavy rains that can affect flowering. It can be some pest disease or just disease, and which also can destroy your harvest. So you like put a lot of effort. You need to buy fertilizers, pesticides, all that stuff to get this harvest, right? And it's kind of a Russian roulette anyway. So they put a lot of efforts, they do their job, and then there is a C market who says like, okay, now the market is, I don't know, like 100 cents per pound. So this is the price we're gonna buy coffee from you, like cherries. We're gonna buy cherries from you, which is basically 100 cents per pound. This is super easy, but I'm not very good in math. So this is a kind of a $2.2 per kg, super cheap. So the problem here, that this market price doesn't allow farmers to cover the cost of growing and production their coffee, and this is like super unpredictable. Like, for example, today this is like 150 or 200 cents per pound, but next month something happened and it's dropped to 90 cents per pound. And now the price you can get, and you cannot wait, because kind of cherry cannot wait, otherwise it just go bad, right? They need to process and they need to sell, so they don't have a choice. They need to sell today at the current C market price, and somebody else, like cooperative or wet mill or exporter, tell the farmers what price they're going to buy from them. It's not the farmer who say, okay, I have so much effort, I have so much cost of production, so the price will be this. So they kind of produce the product, they make a product, but they don't have ability, they don't have a right to like set a price for the product, which seems super unfair. Like it's like you like opening a coffee shop or a coffee roastery, but the people who buys it from you sets the price for a cup of coffee or kg of roasted coffee. Doesn't sound well for the business, right? Because you still need to run a coffee, you need to, pay a salary, buy paper cups, pay for electricity and all that stuff, right? So you have a cost of production. So it's kind of fair if you like set a price for your products. But on the farmer side, for years, for decades, it worked differently. That's why this standard helped us and was invented and changed the industry a lot. Because like this standard allowed us to unbind price from the sea market for the farmers and give them this right to set a price for their product, the product they're doing based on their cost of production. Let's return to the previous slide. I was doubting if I need to put it here, but then I decided why not? I mean, we don't speak a lot about the cost of production structure. It would be useful for people to know like how it, like what farmers are paid for to produce the coffee we drink every day. Like imagine, like for all of us, for coffee roasters, for barista, for even people who works in a green coffee supply companies, this concept of a farmer who grow the coffee, it's so, I don't know, uncertain, I would say. Like people, they usually like, okay, farmers, they produce coffee. But if you look at this as a business, and this is a business, it's not a charity thing, right? Well, it used to be, so we kind of a benefit from people being poor and selling their products, not the price they set. But it's changing now, and this is good for farmers. But price is increasing, and nobody's happy about it. But okay, let's get back to the slide. So cost of production. The biggest part of cost of production is, of course, the labor costs. Like for harvesting, it takes a lot of efforts because in some countries it's like, like 1 month, 2 months, and you need to collect the harvest, otherwise cherries will be ruined and you will lose your harvest, right? So you kind of need to hire a lot of people, a lot of pickers to get the cherries from the trees, right? And this is like a lot of money for coffee farmers who growing coffee. They usually cannot do this. It's usually a family business, but they cannot do it only by hands they have at the moment. They need to hire pickers to do their job. They need to pay them. Very often they also need to accommodate them, maybe pay for their insurance, maybe pay premium for picking up higher quality cherries as well. So this is a lot of money, of course. Production resources like buying fertilizers, buying pesticides, buying like all that stuff you need to use for producing coffee. And all of these costs, they are variable. So the bigger your farm, the bigger you need to spend for like these two types of costs. Like it's already more than a half of the production costs you need to spend for your harvest. And again, like we all complaining about that everything is becoming more and more expensive, like renting an apartment, grocery, I don't know, buying a car, taxes, everything is becoming expensive, right? But it's becoming more expensive for farmers as well. It's not like in producing countries it's just given for free, like pesticides, fertilizers, also becoming more and more expensive. Tools and equipment, like buying equipment, investing in the farm, because it's a kind of a, infrastructure. You need to have an infrastructure to produce in coffee. It like costs a lot of money, especially if you want to make like high-end coffee, especially now. It's like you go to some high-end farms with this controllable controllable room spaces with like humidity, temperature, with these labs, with like doing all this fermentation with infusion yeasts, like it's a kind of a really rocket science, I would say. Like I was mentioned that coffee is not a rocket science, but apparently it's becoming a rocket science, because farmers who do this kind of job, they're now kind of a scientist who invest a lot into their farms. And of course, this kind of coffee cannot be cheap, cannot be $3 per kg or $5 per kg or $8 per kg. This kind of coffee gonna cost 50, I don't know, 80, $70 per kg. And this is fine, because this kind of equipment, this kind of infrastructure, it's expensive, and you need to maintain it. You need to depreciate it. You need to like keep it going, working, which is not cheap. So up to 10% for an average farm, not to like scientific and farm. Transportation to the cooperative or wet mill or like other stuff, it's also cost of production structure, different supplies, farm management, capital costs, taxes, financing, because farmers, they also borrow money from the banks to do their job, to grow the coffee, to harvest the coffee. And of course, they need to pay banks this like rates, returns, and it's also the part of cost of production structure. And it's actually like a big problem for farmers, because usually they don't finance farmers, because farmers doesn't have any education to do this kind of stuff. And cash flow is always like a challenging thing for farmers. They face a lot worldwide, like in other stuff. It's all of these things. It's a cost of production structure for farmers. Some of these costs are fixed, the other variable. So the bigger farm you have, the more you need produce, the more money you need to invest. And otherwise, if you have a small farm, you still have this fixed variables that keeps the same year from year and kind of distribute to the whole harvest, no matter if it's bigger or less than the previous year, right? So it's like from year to year, the price of a coffee from one farm can vary as well, which is, yeah, it happens. So yeah, producing coffee, being a farmer is like super challenging. I think this is like the hardest job throughout our whole supply chain. That's why like when coffee roasters, coffee shops are like complain about these hard times. I mean, go to the farm, like ask your farmer you buy from, how are they, like how do they feel, like what problems they face, like how they resolve it. I think your vision and your opinion about what struggles can change if you are empathic enough. So this is the problem, right? So the exchange has long been an efficient tool for regulating prices. However, the rising the cost of production, which is also associated with rising industry standards, the market price doesn't allow farmers to cover the cost of growing and producing coffee, which is one of the main problems of the industry, and it was 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and probably even now when the market is super high. because as I said, as I mentioned, the cost of production grows, so the cost of living and producing grows in origins and producing countries as well as in consuming countries. This is like the same trend for all the countries, right? Another thing to mention here that this sea market, which is now, it's like 375, I would say. I checked in the morning, which is now $8, more than $8, $8.27 per kg of coffee. It's a basic price for a coffee. I know people, when people think like people who both like were buying coffee last year, like Brazilian coffee at, I don't know, $5 here in the on the spot somewhere in Dubai or in other origins. Now have to buy coffee at 9 something, 10 something dollars per kg, like twice more expensive. They're like, wow, this is insane, this is crazy. But it's actually probably now, historically, we are at the point where the sea market reflects the cost of production for the farmer. It's not something crazy, it's something that reflects the current reality of the farmer. Again, I must mention here that like climate change, that people live in industry, people live in industry, either like new generation, they don't want to do this anymore, or elderly generation, which is passed away and they cannot produce coffee, they just cannot. That's a problem that we were experienced like decades, and just nobody was care, and now that's really affects the production. And for sea markets, it's like super easy. It's defined, it's controlled by the demand supply ratio, right? So we have a big demand for the coffee, but decrease in supply of the coffee. That's why prices rocketed. And the other thing to mention here, that the money itself becoming cheaper, right? Like $8 today. And in, for example, 10 years ago and 20 years ago, they have a different value, right? Like inflation affects all the currencies, dollars, rubles, dirhams. So $8 today doesn't mean $8 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So all these factors affected the market today. But again, we are speaking about the problem that was 30 years ago, that was 50 years ago, and CQI, Coffee Quality Institute, developing the specialty coffee standards to increase the quality, to add the value to the product, and to give a farmer a tool to set up a price, to unbite his price from the sea market and get a higher profit for the product, which, I mean, seems pretty fair. I mean, like, you invest your efforts, your money to grow a better product, higher quality product. So you can have a better profit, a higher profit, right? Totally makes sense for everyone. So conclusions. Our conclusions for both our webinars about the specialty coffee part 1 and part 2. What is specialty coffee? So specialty coffee is, first of all, a global green coffee standard, which includes several aspects, like, of course, tasting profile, of course, there's points, 80 and more points, but it's also about green bean count defects. It's also about roasted bean count defect, all that stuff should be mentioned. Second, that's a market tool to increase the farmer's income, which is like super important. And here I must stress, like people who buy specialty, who buy commercial coffee and market this coffee as a specialty. Like for you, if you like not aware, if you like concerned, if you're buying specialty coffee, this is a like perfect question to ask yourself. Are you sure that the farmer you took this coffee get the premium for the coffee you're buying? Like, I know people who market Santos, Brazil, New York too as a specialty coffee because it's 80 plus. But I mean, can we really name this coffee specialty? Because I mean, it's not even a regional coffee. It's just some coffee from Brazil that was sorted out according to the export standard. That's it. We don't know the farmer. We don't know the region. We don't know the farm. And people who produce this coffee probably didn't get any premium. So why on earth we name commercial coffee specialty, we market commercial coffee specialty, if it's not, if the purpose is not there, if it's like the idea is not there? I mean, I know the answer. We all know the answer, because people want to benefit from marketing their coffee specialty and selling at a higher price, not thinking about the specialty coffee concept, and not putting a lot of efforts or a lot of knowledge. It's just easier to do this kind of stuff. That's it. Which I believe really compromise the industry, the real specialty coffee and the industry itself. Okay, let's move. So the third aspect of the specialty coffee definition, the specialty standard definition, that is coffee, specialty coffee. This is coffee with a unique flavor profile, reflecting the origin, variety, terroir, processing peculiarities. So this is also like traceability and transparency, and flavor profile. It's also like the part of the definition of the specialty coffee. Yeah, traceability and transparency is super important, because again, coffee can the export grades, from Ethiopia, for example, like grade 1, can fit into specialty standard based on defects, based on cupping score. But if you cannot trace this coffee, at least to the region, or better to the farm, we have a question here. If the farmer didn't get its profit, we have a question here. Even let's recall the new SCA system, evaluation system, CVA, right? They have different aspects of evaluation coffee: description, affective, intrinsic, and 4 aspects. I don't remember, but intrinsic is really important. I mean, they also evaluate the effort we put to produce this coffee, the traceability of this coffee, where it's from this coffee. And this is a huge step forward to being able to differentiate commercial coffee and specialty coffee, because like 30 years ago, we invented the standard for specialty, and so many people wanted to speculate on that, wanted to benefit from it, to sell at the higher prices, just commercial products. And the good thing for the whole industry is that when people started to produce in specialty coffee, wet mills, dry mills, exporters, so they kind of invested in improving their infrastructures, the quality of commercial coffee improved as well. So it's kind of, okay, we had commercial coffee, we invented a new standard for specialty coffee, but since we improved infrastructure for specialty coffee, now we can produce higher quality commercial coffee. So again, there's, like difference between high commercial coffee and specialty coffee is super, faded, kind of like how we can now differentiate commercial coffee and specialty coffee. So now we have this new evaluation system developed by CA, and I think it's kind of another tool, a next step in our understanding and our differentiation and marketing product as well for the consumers, to avoid this, misinterpretation in the whole industry, which is also super good. And the last thing, and also important thing to mention here, that specialty coffee, and it's really important to emphasize here, that is its approach for coffee production. And it's not referred only for coffee farmers. It's like referred to all coffee supply chain, importers, exporters, coffee roasters, baristas, like all the parts who involved in producing coffee, like roasting is also producing, making cup of coffee out of roasted beans, it's also producing, like making coffee, right? So that's what differentiate commercial product from specialty. This is our approach, which includes our knowledge, our skills, our competences. Like barista with lack of skills won't be able to brew a specialty cup of coffee, even if the green beans was specialty, even if they were roasted, competent and skilled coffee roasters. Barista can ruin everything. Same thing for coffee roaster. If they don't have enough skills and knowledge how to roast the coffee, like from different origins, different processing, they can ruin this coffee, even if it's beautiful coffee, Panama Geisha from, I don't know, Finca Deborah. But if people don't know how to roast it, they will ruin a product. They won't be able to deliver this specialty product to the next part of a chain, which is super sad. And I can see it on the markets happening. It's super upsetting, but I'm here not to kind of blame people, making feel them guilty. I'm just here to encourage people to invest in their skills, in their knowledge, to learn about the coffee, because there's so many things to learn about coffee. Always, no matter how many years you are in the coffee industry, it's developing as well, it's growing as well. It's like new knowledge, new trends on the market all the time is appearing. So we should be there on the edge together with all the trends. So we all, that people who are responsible for making specialty coffee, for making specialty product for our customers, for coffee consumers. And this is a kind of a shared responsibility. We cannot put all this responsibility on the farmer who produce specialty product. We should be there as well. And this is what I can see, like people around, they just forget about it. And they Like, okay, specialty, it's just about green bean, but it's actually about approach as well. You cannot deliver high quality specialty product if you don't have it. You can deliver higher quality products if you apply this approach to commercial coffee, which is good as well. So we can do this to get a good quality, high quality commercial product as well. Um, and yeah, we should think about specialty industry and specialty coffee in all these aspects. We should, when we have in front of us cup of coffee or green coffee or roasted coffee, we should bear in mind not only this, score sheet, the SAA score sheet about the coffee. We should bear in mind all this stuff. If all the people get their premium for the product they did, if it's traceable and transparent, if there is a lot of if people put a lot of efforts to do this product in front of us, we drink at the moment. We should have a kind of checklist and put a notes in these boxes if it's specialty product or not, and like thinking wider about this standard, about this segment of the coffee, and of course taking this responsibility and bearing this responsibility of delivering better quality, high quality product to our customers. So that's it. This is what I wanted to talk about today. If you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer. I hope it was interesting.
Thank you, Dario. It was very nice and very good knowledge. I learned because I am already EST in barista, sensory, and brewing, but I just want to join your class. I am a Q processor also for level one and quality controller from CQI also. But I always want to learn something new. But from I already working in the specialty coffee and I'm a trainer from SCA. But still, you want to have like this crazy kind of passion to learn. That's why I always want to learn something new. And from this uh, class, I learned something new also. And
I'm
thank you very
super
much,
happy.
really.
I'm super happy, Bilal. It's so important to keep learning, no matter how many steps you already achieved. This is like super
Exactly.
important. I'm proud of you. I mean, that's a lot that you have already, and this is like super important to keep going and trying just to have the full puzzle in your head about the industry, and of course as a EST, deliver this message to your students as well, like teaching them to understand all the aspects of a specialty coffee.
That's true. That's true. Thank you very much. And I have one question. When you will going to start the class for the judging?
Judging, I wasn't planning to do class for judging for sensory skills only. Probably in May, beginning of May or late May, but for judging, if there is a demand on the market, I can make it, but probably after the competition. So next month is gonna be Brewers Cup. Let's see how it goes, and I don't mind making a class for Brewers Cup after the competition.
Because I'm trying to be part of judging panel for this year,
Mhm,
and that's why I just want to be get something more deeply about the judging.
mhm.
That's why I request you. I think last time also, but you said you don't have to plan. So if you can do it before competition, it was very nice, very good for me and community as well. For me, of course.
Are you interested in barista or Brewers Cup?
No, I'm more going to be a Brewers Cup.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, if you have plan, just tell me. So I will, for sure, I will join.
Okay. Got you.
And thank you very much for today, and really
Thank you.
appreciate. Thank you very much for your
Thank you for
knowledge.
coming. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Daria.
Okay, nice to meet you. Bye bye. Thank you.
See you around, guys. See you around.
See
Thank
you. See you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.